I was watching several movies this weekend and several TV shows too. A lot of really good content out right now. And I watched Ford v Ferrari. I watched Django Unchained and The Pit. Several other things I watched too. And one of the questions that I had as I was watching this, and this is not an area of expertise that I'm like an expert in. A lot of these videos, I'm like trying to become an expert in something, and so I'm doing a deep dive analysis of it in the video so that we can have a conversation about it. This was not me doing a deep dive. This was just me experiencing something and thinking, "Wow, I want to talk about this." And if anybody has any insights, if anybody watching has any insights, I would love your comments down below, especially if you are an actor or if you're really into acting and you have like thought processes about this. I work with actors, but I'm not an actor. So I have a perspective on acting that is not done from an expertise standpoint, but rather sort of from an enthusiast standpoint or somebody who's working with people who are trying to do a thing that we're collaborating on, right? In my marketing practice, I work with designers, but I'm not a designer. So I have to understand design and I have to understand how do I maybe get the best out of the designer I'm working with, but I'm not a designer. So this is kind of a similar thing with acting, right? I'm not an actor. I'm just trying to get the best out of the actors that I work with. Everybody has different styles. I'd love to hear what your styles are in the comments down below. But my realization is how an actor shows up on screen is a very fascinating experience because I'm watching Django Unchained. Phenomenal movie. Hadn't watched it in a long time, so it was fun to watch it again, revisit it. And I'm watching Leonardo DiCaprio. And I'm going to show a clip. I'll show us a couple clips here. It's really hard to show a Leo clip from that movie because there's so much swearing and so much saying of words that we don't want to be putting out on YouTube. That it's really rough. But Leo's performance in that it was mind blowing to me. He's just phenomenal. He's phenomenal in Django Unchained. But, well, I'll get to that. Then I watched Ford v Ferrari, and of course Matt Damon and Christian Bale are also amazing. This is, by the way, an appreciation video for the most part because I love all three of these performers. So I'm watching Ford v Ferrari, and I'm watching Christian Bale, and I'm thinking he's awesome in this movie too, but very different from the way that Leonardo DiCaprio was awesome in Django Unchained. What's up, Games with Hursty? Good to see you. And I'm trying to think through like how does an actor deal with this, right? Leonardo DiCaprio, when he shows up on screen, it's almost impossible not to see Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Like he always, to me as a viewer, if I'm going to cast Leonardo DiCaprio in one of my films, which would be amazing, by the way, I would love to work with Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not like Leonardo DiCaprio is not disappearing from the screen. He still seems like Leonardo DiCaprio to me. Contrast that with Christian Bale and Christian Bale's performances, and Christian Bale to me sort of disappears into every performance that he's doing. So it's very different, right? Like you have Leonardo DiCaprio always is seen as Leonardo DiCaprio to me, whether or not it's always a great performance. So this is like he's amazing as Leonardo DiCaprio in this film. Same thing with Brad Pitt, right? Brad Pitt's very similar that way. Christian Bale sort of just disappears into whatever role he's in. So we're going to look at a couple clips. I'll show you a couple clips show you what I'm talking about. Matt Damon, on the other hand, is a little bit more. He's like kind of a little bit in between, but a little bit more like Leonardo DiCaprio. And so I'm having this question as I'm watching this. I'm going, how do some actors disappear into a role? Does it have to do with their PR? Does it have to do with like how much we see them on social media or in interviews or whatever? Or is it just a style that they're embodying? Or is it just that they're such a unique person, it's almost impossible for them to disappear into a role, right? So let me just show a clip. I'm going to bring these up. I have clips from both of them. This is a phenomenal Leo clip. I can't show all the Leo clip because, like I said, he swears too much and he's saying words that we don't want to say on YouTube. But let me just show what I can show from this clip from Django Unchained. And I was just blown away by it because it's phenomenal.
Now, Bright Boy, I will admit you are pretty clever. What if I took this hammer
By the way, shout out to Jamie Foxx too, because he's another outstanding performer.
here and I bashed in your skull with it? You would have the same 3 dimples in the same place.
I'm going to fast forward just a little bit here. I don't want to hit any of the swear words.
There's old Ben.
Hey! Don't lay your palms flat on that tabletop. If you lift those palms off that turtle shell tabletop, Mr. Pooch is gonna let loose with both barrels that sawed off. There have been a lot of lies said around this dinner table here tonight, but that you can believe.
Now that is a phenomenal performance by any measure, right? Like what he just did was outstanding in that scene. But there was not a moment where I was sitting there and I thought to myself like, "Oh, that's not Leonardo DiCaprio," right? And so there's this thing you're doing as maybe as a director or a producer where you're choosing people to be in your film, and you have to think about, how does this person show up on camera? Does this person show up on camera in a way that they disappear? Or does this person show up on camera in a way that I'm still seeing them? I'm going to show you now. Let's take a look at the other clip I got here. This is a clip of Christian Bale in Ford v Ferrari, and let's look at this clip and see how it's different.
So, that is a sport car. You have to drive her like a sport car. If you drive her like a school teacher, she'll clog up. All right. Try changing up at 5,000 RPM, not 2. Drive like you mean it. Hard, tight. She'll run clean.
Now, I know I'm only giving you like these little tiny clips, which is impossible to judge any movie by. It's impossible to judge any performance by. It's not fair to do that. But in this other performance, Christian Bale is gone, man. Like, I don't see Christian Bale at all in that performance. He turns into Ken Miles. And so the thing that I am reflecting on as a director and someone who's going to hopefully create more movies over the course of time, what are we looking for in the performances of the people that we're hiring? And I have Matt Damon, obviously he's in this movie too, and I was watching Matt Damon, and Matt Damon's a little bit more like DiCaprio to me, although he's a little bit in between, where I usually know that I'm watching Matt Damon. It's not like he disappears. When I'm watching Oppenheimer, this is another good example. Cillian Murphy disappears into Oppenheimer. I have in my head, there's no difference between Oppenheimer and Cillian Murphy in that movie. But when I'm watching Matt Damon as General Groves, I think, when I'm watching him as General Groves, I'm still going, oh, this is still Matt Damon. It's not bad. It's not that like, oh, it's like there's a difference in the performance where one is clearly far superior to the other. And a lot of times the actors who don't, quote unquote, disappear into performances are the ones that can get you more eyeballs on your production. You say that Leonardo DiCaprio is in your film. Guess what's happening? Your film's going to make a lot of money comparative to what it could made if he wasn't in it, right? Now you're going to pay him a lot of money too, so be careful with the profitability equation there. But there's these actors who become movie stars, and I think we're seeing less and less of that over time. And then you see actors who just disappear into roles to the point where you actually can't see them. Doesn't mean they're not a movie star. It just means that their profile in the film is a very different profile. I think that some other actors are, and what I'm trying to understand, and I can't give you any wisdom because, again, I'm not an expert in acting. What I'm trying to understand is, how does that happen? And why do we not care sometimes? I don't care that it looks like Brad Pitt as a evil plantation owner, right? It doesn't matter to me. Sorry, Leonardo DiCaprio. It doesn't matter to me that Leonardo DiCaprio still feels like Leonardo DiCaprio. Just like he does in Titanic, he still feels like Leonardo. Very different character, though. Both of them feel like Leonardo DiCaprio being a character. Both are phenomenal. So I think it's this really interesting thing that we do when we create art about like what choices are we making and who we collaborate with in a way that shows up on screen. And I'm really curious to hear if you're an actor, for example, or an actress, what are some of the things that you're trying to embody? Are you trying to disappear into the role, like more like a Christian Bale? There's a lot of great character actors that do this too. Christoph Waltz is in Django Unchained. Completely disappears into the role. You don't think it's Christoph Waltz at all. He's Django's travel partner, basically, right? Bounty hunter. So I'm just trying to understand this a little bit better. And I'm trying to understand like why people would choose one over the other. Would you rather be a movie star or would you rather disappear into your roles? I think Timothée Chalamet to me is one that I'm watching closely because I love his performances, and I can't really tell if he's turning into which kind of actor he's turning into. Is he turning into a movie star or is he turning into a character actor? It's hard to determine what that looks like. So I'm really curious. Are you a performer, and do you fall into one of these two buckets? And why would you fall into one of these two buckets? And what's meaningful to you about them? I mean, obviously, it's very profitable to do either of them. Although I would argue that if you become a movie star, less likely to disappear into your roles, you become a marketing vehicle for people. Because if you are a movie star and I cast you in my movie, you're much more likely to be able to sell the movie. You're much more likely to be able to get merchandise deals on the end of it. Whereas if you're more of a character actor and you disappear into that role, you don't have the brand presence, perhaps, which is like an ugly term in the art world, but let's not pretend that it doesn't exist. And you're probably not going to get brand deals. No one's going to you and saying like, hey, can you try to sell my motorcycle for me? Can you try to sell my cologne for me, or what, perfume or whatever? And so I'm very curious as to why performers would choose one or the other. Maybe you can't choose one or the other. Maybe you are just inherently that thing. Maybe you are inherently a character actor, or you are inherently a movie star, and you can't really choose. You don't get to choose between the two. That's an interesting question as well. So as a director, I'm trying to understand that, because as I look for people to be in films and I look for people to be a part of roles, what am I looking for? I'm also a producer. So as I think about producing things, who am I hiring and why am I hiring them? And you hear this a lot. There's a big discussion right now. There was a Maya Hawke video that came out, and an Ethan Hawke video that came out, where they were talking about producers looking at how many followers you have before they make something. The reason that happens is pretty simple. It's a very economic equation. As a producer, I want more eyeballs on whatever I produce because it makes more money, and it costs a lot of money to produce art for the first time, or for any time. And so when you're creating art, you're thinking to yourself, well, am I just going to create art for $1 million and then just lose $1 million because no one's going to see this? So the more eyeballs you can bring to that table, the more likely you are to be profitable. Therefore, you would cast somebody with more followers. That's the basic math there. Markiplier, YouTuber, 38 million followers, tells everybody to go see his movie, and it does 10x or higher in its return. It gets a huge return. So why? Because Markiplier has a bajillion followers and told them to go watch his movie. So I'm very curious about all this stuff. I hope you enjoyed those clips. Let me know what performers really resonate with you, and then let me know if you see the same thing I see, where there's some actors and actresses who their presence is very much known, even though they're great actors or great performers, or their presence is sort of unknown. They disappear into the role entirely, and yet they're still great performers. It's a very interesting thing that I'm trying to understand. So let me know what you think. I'm going to try to do more of these live shows. So if you got a topic that you want me to address, specifically involved with filmmaking, writing, directing, whatever, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. I will see you on the next show.